So again, let's start over. Today's topic is how to differentiate yourself from your competition when you're in your interviews. Whether those be for interviews if you're an independent consultant looking for your next project, or you're looking for a full-time role. Today, I want to share with you the formula that's been really working really well for my clients as they're working to differentiate themselves and land offers. So with that in mind, we're going to focus on 4 things today. Number 1, really understanding how do your interview skills measure up against the competition. Then number 2, so I'll walk you through a few questions around that so you can figure out for yourself, how are you measuring up? Then we'll talk about that number 1 key that I see to differentiating. And I'll give you 7 steps to implement that key so you know what to do after you leave today to start up-leveling your interviews. And then finally, I decided to include a surprise announcement at the end. And I really want to just jump to that, but I won't. So you have to wait. You have to wait. So with that, if we haven't met yet, my name is Melisa Lieberman. I am a career and business coach who helps other tech leaders and independent tech consultants achieve their career and professional goals. I help my clients, I work with them on one-on-one, landing their dream jobs, improving their leadership skills, growing and scaling their IC businesses. So whatever your tech-related professional goal is, this is something I'd love to roll up my sleeves and help you with. And I created this lunch because I can't obviously work with everyone one-on-one, nor does everyone want a one-on-one coach. But I want to share a taste of these best practices with you so we have that larger ability to impact the tech world with our professional talents. So with that, let's dive into today's topic. So the first thing that I told you we would do is really assess your interview skills. Where are you at right now? I hear so often, well, no one's giving me feedback. I really don't know. There's really a couple of ways to figure out how you're doing from an interview perspective, and I'll tell you the bottom line here in a minute. But the first is for you to answer these questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you'll convert an interview to an offer? Whether that's a full-time offer or a consulting offer. Just put down a number now. There's no right answer. Could be different tomorrow, right? What is that number? And then why did you choose that number? And then what would make it a 10? So I'm seeing lots of 7s, 3s, 5s, 0s. 0 wasn't even an option, Daniel. Oh boy, that shows us where you're at, right? I'm just teasing you. So really look at this and figure out for yourself, what is the number for you right now of how confident you are that you're going to convert an interview to an offer. And then let's look at this. So if you're a 9 or a 10, most people won't put 10, right? So I included 9 in that. 9 is 9 or above. 9 or above, if you're like most of us, nothing's ever a 10. There's always room for improvement. So let's just go with if you're a 9 or a 10. But you have the reason why you chose that is some qualification. Something that feels like an external circumstance, like I could nail this interview and convert it to an offer if they're open to someone my age, or if they're not already set on an internal candidate, or if they, have the budget, or if they, whatever. All of those if statements that relate to external circumstances. Just note that you're an A. If you're less than 9, then you're a B. And then if you're a 9 or a 10, no matter what these external circumstances are, like I am so confident in my interview skills that I can go there and lay it all on the table, no matter what their things are. I really feel confident that I can convert that into an offer. So just let me know in the chat if you're watching this live, what your letter is. And based off of your letter, then start thinking as you use that letter that you just came up with, as we go through this content today, to think about how it applies to you. And for a lot of you, I'm going to be talking to A and B. Pretty much all of you, A and B. Another way to really at the end of the, so we did our self-assessment, right? And you know where you're at right now and why you rated yourself that number and what would make it a 10. Now that you're armed with that piece of information, now let's just look at the bottom line. You know if you're good at interviewing if you have the results after the interview. Do you have job offers you're excited to accept? Do you have consulting clients you love working with? We're paying you or not. If not, you can do one of two things. You can either say, well, all these external things are preventing me from, I'm very good, but all these external things are preventing me from being successful. Or you can start looking at your interview process and figuring out where can I start really moving the needle here, even if it's from an 8 to a 9. To get to the place where I am transferring that interview into an offer. And so many of you might be saying right now, but Melissa, these are always my favorite sides, but Melissa, I don't have the offers yet because of all this stuff that's out of my control. It has nothing to do with my interview skills. I am a rock star at interviewing, or I'm decent at interviewing, and all of these things, these external things are preventing me from landing an offer. My age is preventing me from landing an offer. The fact that I don't have a 4-year degree is preventing me from landing an offer. The fact that this is just a complete hoax and really they already have a candidate and they're making me go through the motions, and they already decided who they're gonna want to hire. All of that stuff is out of my control, and so therefore I'm amazing at interviewing, but I can't control all of these other things, and I'm just at a loss for what to do. I hear this all the time. You guys tell me, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that experience, I don't have enough in-depth recent SaaS experience, I don't have a 4-year degree, even though you were in college, 30 years ago, and you've had an amazing career since then. Oh, it doesn't look like they're hiring people, they want cheaper people, like whatever all of that story is. What it ends up doing is giving you an out. You don't have to take a hard look at yourself if you're thinking all of these things. You're leaning on and justifying your results, which are no offers, based on all of these out of control variables and that prevent you from doing your best and improving. I'm sure you have some comments for me and I'll check them in a minute. But really, are you going to continue focusing on what you don't have and wondering how to quote unquote fix it, which a lot of this stuff doesn't have a fix. We can't change your age, right? Are you going to keep focusing on that as the reason why you don't have offers? Or are you going to dig in here with me today and let's look at other reasons that could be showing up that you do have control over? The first of which is acknowledging you have more control than you think you do. So before I start giving you the 7 steps, let's talk about the impact of blaming these external circumstances for your lack of offers. When you're thinking that you're out of control, that things are out of your control, that you're too old, that you don't have recent leadership experience, that you don't have the right SaaS experience, that you don't have the right company names on your resume, that you don't have we could go on and on here. All the things that you tell me you don't have. When you're thinking about that and blaming those external circumstances for you not having a job offer, it ends up costing you the subtleties that would result in an offer. It causes you to hesitate and second guess. It causes you to be skeptical. It causes you to meander around and avoid potential objections that someone might have, like your age, which ends up making them even more obvious. You're like waving over here when they asked you something over here. It causes you to hide. You might not even be, what's wrong with me today? I can't even formulate a sentence. You might not even be applying right now because you think it's a waste of time. And of course, you're not going to get an offer if that's the case. Or you might just be going through the motions. You might be caveating a lot or over-explaining. This happens so often when I do mock interviews with people. They're over-explaining. It's like a 10-minute answer. No one wants to hear a 10-minute answer. I don't care how interesting it is. You choose safe stories that really have no impact. The person's not even listening. It's so boring. Giving you some tough love today. But it probably is boring. No one wants to go to an interview someone who's boring, who then they think they're going to have to manage and deal with for the next 3 years. And the other thing that you do is like, if you're in this place where it feels like these external things out of your control are the reason why you don't have an offer, is like searching for clues in what they say. Not listening to them, we'll talk about that in a minute, but like wanting them to validate you, wanting them to feel comfortable, wanting them to smile at you or not be multitasking or whatever it is in order for you to feel permission to show up powerfully. So take a look at where are you chalking up the lack of offers, which means you can't convert right now an interview to an offer. Where are you blaming that on external circumstances? And how is that impacting you as a result? How are you really showing up? For some of you, it could be very obvious. Like, oh, wow, Melissa, I think I am I'm in this bucket of over-explaining. For others of you, it could be very subtle. Usually it kind of winnows down to this, once we take care of the big chunks of interview wrongdoings, it's like the subtleties that are tripping you up. I promise I'm not going to just keep beating you over the head without a solution. So now what? We know that you're not converting, if you're here, you're not converting interviews into offers or into consulting roles. And so how do you get to the place where where you really know what is that number? What number are you from 1 to 10? And why is it that you're not converting those numbers to an offer? Why are you not converting the interviews to an offer? Something that came up for you in that self-assessment we did at the beginning? Or is it because you're blaming those external circumstances and showing up in the way that I was just describing? Like based on what we've just done in that quick self-evaluation, ask yourself what's going on. And then let's flip it. How do you differentiate yourself in the interview process so you can stand apart from your competition? And the simple answer is for you to get in the best headspace by focusing on them and not on you. So there's a couple of components to this, and I'll walk you through those 7 steps. But first you might be saying like, what do you mean talking about them, thinking about them and not about me? I'm the one who's interviewing. I should be talking about me. This is my chance to talk about me, to sell me. Why would I focus on them? And what does that even mean? Sometimes I have a trigger finger there. So what this looks like. So I'll see if this resonates with you. Are you doing this? When you're focusing on you and not them, you're choosing examples that highlight, even subtly, the things you care about, the topics where you feel most confident, where you assume they care about, what makes you feel acknowledged and fulfilled, and not highlighting the experience and the examples they care about. You might be the most studious, passionate, well-versed, results-oriented leader. the tech world has seen. But if the interviewer you're talking to doesn't care about that, doesn't care about the way that your leadership philosophies, it doesn't matter. Now, I'm not saying you should go take that job if there's a complete disconnect. But what I am saying is you have to focus on what you have to know what they care about and focus on what they care about. This is not an exercise of you bringing your resume to life. It's an exercise of you understanding their requirements and speaking to their requirements. So let me give you a couple of examples to further illustrate this. The first example, so an interview question. Let's start with an overview. Like, how often does this happen? Walk me through your background and how it relates to this job description, or tell me about yourself. Most people use a canned answer. Like, I practiced this a bunch of times, and I'm gonna like give them all this stuff sequentially and maybe highlight some things that felt interesting to me or that stand out in my mind about each one of those roles. And never one time think about, what does this interviewer care about? What would be interesting to this interviewer? What does this interviewer care about? What is this interviewing hiring this role for? None of that. It's like the Peanuts guy, right? They're not even listening. You're just giving them this whole thing and none of it matters to them. So, and we'll here in a minute, we'll talk about the 7 steps to overcome this, but I want to really drive home what this looks like if you're doing it. The second, like the question of walk me through a successful project or initiative. Again, you're like, pick something that you were most excited about, or you felt the best about, or that you know, was kind of had the biggest numbers. Not really thinking about, when you're choosing that, what does the interviewer care about? What are the pain points they have they're wanting me to solve? And the third example here is like, tell me about an unsuccessful project. And why was it unsuccessful? So commonly what happens is first people seize up. I mean, it's human nature, right? We're like, shit, they asked me a question about that I really was hoping they wouldn't. Which is fine. Don't stay there for very long. And then give some answer that's harmless. Like, it literally says nothing. A complete fluff. And the even worse, on top of that, a lot of times people end up not even realizing it, but not taking ownership. This is never blatant, or very rarely is it blatant, but a lot of times they point the fingers at other people or other external circumstances. And it ends up creating a red flag versus what could actually be a benefit to you when you're choosing this answer, you know, how to answer this. So if you're doing any of these things, hopefully this gives you an idea of what it looks like to be focused on you and not them. The common thread here, you don't know what they really want beyond just the job description. Like, why are they hiring? Why are they bringing on a consultant? What is the business case? And so you guess and hope it resonates. I'm not trying to beat you up today, just maybe a little. But I want to give you these 7 steps so that you can start converting these interviews into offers. If you're doing all of this, just know that you're not the only one. I talk to people almost every day, or we're doing some form of what I just described. So it would be very common that you might be doing that too. So I'm here to call you out for it, but not to beat you up over it. So don't beat yourself up over it either. What we are here to do, though, is number 1, to be aware of what's going on, even if it's subtle. And then number 2, to put this process in place so that you can overcome it. So now the 7 steps to focus the interview on them being the hiring manager or the recruiter. The recruiter actually cares about something. A lot of times I'm a little tangent here, but a lot of times people say, well, the recruiter doesn't actually know what they're recruiting for, which could be true. It's like true a lot of times. Or people say, you know, the recruiter doesn't know enough about this to really answer any questions. Guess what the recruiter cares about? The recruiter cares about putting you forward or putting someone forward to the hiring manager who doesn't make them look bad. That's what the recruiter cares about. So think about it from that perspective. Think about them. All right. I digressed a tiny bit, but this is relevant, I think, to step 2 or 3. Okay, so number 1, get in the zone. Whoops, I didn't mean for all of these builds. Okay, that's gonna make things tricky, but we'll manage. Okay, so number 1, get yourself into the zone. Create a pre-game routine that helps you get into the right mental space before your interview. Going into a productive mindset can be I see this all the time. This can be the difference between you getting an offer and not. What this looks like is creating confidence ahead of time. And I walk my clients through a lot of tools around this because so many people delegate their confidence to the situation in the room of the recruiting, of the conversation, right? Of the interview. Well, if the person is friendly and we have like a rapport, then I'll show up this way. But if they seem not friendly or they're distracted or they're all the things, then I'm not my best self. Guess what? You need to be showing up regardless of how that other person is showing up as your best self. You create your own confidence. You don't wait on someone else or some external dynamic to create the confidence for you. So create this pre-game routine for yourself so you can get in the right headspace of having that confidence and not delegating it to that external circumstance. How much the recruiter or the hiring manager is nodding, or how amazing the conversation is. That's you delegating your success to someone else. So the pre-game routine is you getting into that confident zone before the interview, not tentatively before the interview, or, oh, hopefully they act this way, then I can be confident. None of that. Number 2, have a plan in place to get back on track. So again, this is pre-interview. Know in advance you're probably going to get off track. Know in advance your mind might start wandering or second guessing itself. Know in advance that if the interviewer is multitasking, you're going to start feeling pissed. Whatever it is, know in advance that this is not going to go well, and potentially at certain junctures, and have a plan of how you're going to handle that. Going into an interview thinking, well, if this all runs smoothly, then I'll get the offer, is not going to set you up for success. In some cases, there are companies out there, Amazon included, that put the pressure on you or handle the interview in a non-professional way in order to see how you're going to react. So develop a protocol ahead of time so you know how you're going to handle this. What are the signs that it's happening? And then what's your, I like to have like a simple mantra, or even like snapping my hairband on my wrist, something like that, to get yourself back into the present moment. Okay, let's keep it moving here. Number 3, why? Why are they hiring? This is such a mistake that most of you don't know the actual answer. It is not because they have a head count. It is not because they're stretched really thin. Why are they hiring? The recruiter, his or her motivation is to find someone that makes them look good with the hiring manager. The hiring manager is wanting to find someone that makes them look good with their boss. What are those things that make them look good? What are the results how will they look good in the interview process, that they're someone who's good at hiring? And then what is the result that they're looking for after you're hired? What is success? Figure this out. And don't tell me, well, the job description is really crappy. I don't really know. Yeah, neither do your competitors. Go figure out the answers, and then you will be set aside a step ahead of your competitors. Get creative. Go find the answers. And then listen. Ask questions. Read between the lines. So ask the questions and listen to the answers. And then also listen for what they're asking or not asking or insinuating. Just like you would be gathering requirements in a professional setting. Gather the requirements and listen to the end user. It's like 101. And then address their requirements. Direct your answers to address what they value and what their pain points are. Pick out the examples and the stories that relate to what it is they care about. Don't just give them an answer you think is like your best canned answer you have. Think about it from them, their perspective, what they care about, not from you and your perspective. Number 6. There's 7. We have one more, and then I'll tell you the surprise, and then we'll do questions if you're here live. Okay, anticipate their objections. What are their objections? Maybe they do think you're interviewing with someone who's 25 and you're 60. They probably have an objection about your age. They probably think you're set in your ways and hard to manage. I would be giving some stories to demonstrate your flexibility, your nimbleness, your youthful attitude. Think about this. Ask questions that help you uncover the obstacles, the objections, and you can make some assumptions here in addition to that. But figure out the way you can articulate the stories and the answers you're giving in an interview to overcome those proactively. And then finally, the last step is committing to what I call the post-game ritual. Got a little sports theme today. Evaluate yourself after the interview. Stop complaining that no one's giving you feedback. It's not going to happen. If you get it, you're lucky. There's no upside to companies telling you why they didn't hire you. The only downside is they're worried they're going to get sued. They don't have time. Now, sometimes you're going to get lucky, like I just said. Take that as a gift, and the rest of the time, figure it out yourself. Ask yourself after the interview, what went well, what didn't go well, what will I do differently? What did I learn about this role that I can build upon with the next interview that I get with this company? What questions do I still have to further dig into what they care about? How can I figure out the answers to these questions so that I can continue adding value and having a strategic dialogue in the course of these interviews versus just going there and giving my canned answers that may or may not land? Okay, if you're here live, we'll go into questions in a moment, but first, the surprise that you've all been waiting for, that I've been waiting to tell you anyway. I am starting a podcast this spring. So we're going to be converting these Tech Leader Power Lunches over into a podcast so you can listen to them at your own leisure. And if you would like to, I don't know the exact date yet. In fact, I'm telling you this very prematurely because I haven't even hired my podcast producer yet, but I will be starting that process in March, and I will know the exact dates and details. So if you